57th and Granville, a 10-acre parcel of property. It was first developed by the B.T. Rogers family early in the 20th century, then purchased by the Austin Taylor family in the 1930s, always operated or used as a single-family residential private estate. In 1967, my uncle Peter Wall bought it from the Taylor estate and went through a protracted rezoning process and managed to get it approved for multifamily rental residential use. So the new buildings were then constructed around the three heritage buildings. There's a 25,000 square foot mansion, a coach house and a gatehouse, and our company voluntarily preserved them in the 1970s together with a perimeter wall. Both the mansion and the wall are now designated as Heritage A, and what we're looking to do with this proposal that we have before you is to look at opportunities to preserve the additional heritage buildings that are there, the coach house and the gatehouse, and to revitalize and reintroduce new housing types on the estate. The 162 residential rental apartments that were built in the 1970s are nearing the end of their useful economic life. Back about 4 or 5 years ago, we engaged Busby Perkins Wills. David Dutt was here to answer any questions as well, to look at opportunities for redeveloping and enhancing the existing property that we have. What came out of that discussion was a proposal, especially in light of Vancouver's new eco-density policy, to actually look at re-densifying the site. We've engaged with the tenants, with the neighbors over the last year and a half to talk about different opportunities, and in 2009 staff went to council with a recommendation that the site be considered for densification and a rezoning application. So since then, we re-engaged again with the neighbors, with the community, with ARCs, with the tenants, and developed a concept that we think meets some of the city's objectives that they adopted in 2009 for this site. There's 11, 13 objectives that we're trying to meet, and those are all available, online. So we developed a response to that. After we made our rezoning application in August, city staff then directed us to make a few different revisions and provide some other alternatives to our preferred application, and they are now taking over the public application process. So we look forward to the community input. We've had 4 or 5 meetings with the neighbors that have been led by the city, both in English, Cantonese, Mandarin, and now we're engaged in a more detailed community process. I would call it more of a workshop where smaller groups get to meet and review our application and provide comments. So that process is ongoing. We welcome their input, and we look forward to delivering a project that's good for the neighbors, the community, and for ourselves and the city as a whole. So I'll turn it over to Brent.
Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. It can be a bit confusing about how our normal process works, and we certainly understand that as Council has directed us to do an enhanced process, we have to do a very good job of explaining how that process will go and what we hope to achieve through it. We always try to make our public processes fair and transparent. That's our basic goal, and make sure that all stakeholders, certainly all members of the public who are interested, but all various stakeholders have a chance to be heard, to be understood, and ultimately have their concerns and ideas seriously considered as we go through the process. In this case, Council asked us to specifically do something in a more enhanced way, and that's based on a recognition that we have a large site, a complex site, with many unusual characteristics on site, such as the on-site heritage features, and many aspirations that come from its context, from its large site status, and from Council policies, new policies relating to everything from sustainability and greener city to affordability. We also are in a community with a very engaged community system. Many citizens who've been involved with our community planning processes for years. And Council also directed us specifically to look for opportunities and strategies that go beyond the ARC's community vision. They asked us to do alternative options and alternative concepts, and at least one of them had to adhere to the ARC's community vision. In fact, the developer has produced 2 that generally reflect the ARC's community vision out of the 5 that have overall been produced. But because Council gave us a specific permission to look for strategic opportunities for densification that go beyond the ARC's vision, they said that we need to do an enhanced process. And so what does enhanced mean in this context? Well, it starts with the idea of options. We don't usually in a rezoning process actually require developers to provide additional or alternative options. So the developer has produced, as they characterize it, a preferred option, but the council requirement was that they provide 4 other viable options, including, as I said, at least one that reflects the ARC's vision. So that's unusual, and it means that the community will be able to comment on the things they like or don't like, things that they're excited about or concerned about, on all the various options, not just the preferred option particularly presented by the applicant. So that's very unusual, and we've confirmed for the public that they don't have to choose the option they like best. They're allowed to, and in fact encouraged to, identify the things they like and don't like, things that raise concerns or questions on all of the options. And the clear point is that it's not the intent to choose a favored option, but it's probably much more likely that a preferred option may evolve as we move along in this process based on the commentary we hear about all 5 of them. So 1 preferred option and 4 alternatives. So that's something new and certainly enhanced to start with. On top of that, beyond our usual open house approach to rezoning, which is our usual business as usual, we're doing a number of different techniques and approaches that you've already seen some indication of. We started off with what we called information sessions, something we don't normally do in zonings, that really make sure that the public understands the nature of the process, the relative difference between the roles, the difference between the city and the developer, for example, and the roles of the community. Because there was a lot of confusion, we heard about that. And we don't normally start our processes with a bit of planning process 101. But given the engaged nature of the community and the call of council for an advanced process, we've done a lot of upfront work with the community to make sure they understand the nature of the process and their opportunities to engage with it. So we've had 3 public information sessions in 3 languages, and that's another part of this enhanced process that's unusual. So we've held the information session in Cantonese, Mandarin, and English. All 3 of these information sessions were very well attended, and I would say very well received in terms of our explanation of the enhanced process. The feedback we got was quite positive from the public, who may have concerns about the proposals and want to have those concerns shared with us, but they gave us positive commentary about the approach we were taking in this enhanced process sense. So another aspect of the enhanced process is the much more a comprehensive approach to the multiple languages reflected in the community. The last piece of enhanced process that I'll mention is the interactive online tool that we've created, Talk Vancouver Shannon Mews. And the intent is to have a one-stop shop from an online perspective that not only provides information about events, clarifies any information or questions, answers questions, provides links to videos and reports and what have you, which we often do in our web pages for various projects. But the online forum is something we're going to be trying much more aggressively in this case, and it's a real opportunity not only for us to use the web effectively in this process, but pilot it as a way to possibly do business as usual in the future. We certainly, through our Talk Green to Us initiative in the Green a City action team approach, have learned a lot about the positive abilities and powers of interactive online opportunities, and we really want to build on that. So this will be the first time we try something like that in a rezoning context. And as I say, if it works, we'd very much like to think about whether this can become business as usual. So I think those are the components of what we've considered the enhanced process, all of which go well beyond what we normally do in a rezoning process. All of this is after, essentially, the process that the applicant has already done in a public process. And this can be a bit confusing for the public as well, because there have been workshops, there have been design processes, there's been various meetings since 2009, really. And there was some confusion about who was running those meetings and who those meetings were. Those were meetings that were initiated by the developer. We always encourage developers, before they make an application, to do a robust consultation process themselves. We often participate in it, but it's not our process, it's theirs. And frankly, I think the developer in this case has done more than usual in terms of that pre-application engagement process. But it can be a bit confusing for the public when we launch our official city process in January of this year and say we're just at the beginning of listening.